Okay, I'm here today now with the lovely Stacey Apple. Stacey, how you doing today?
Good. How are you, Danielle?
I'm doing great. Stacey, you're a franchisee with Network in Action. How did you come to know about Network in Action?
So I've been a franchisee for just over a year, and I was looking for different business opportunities, and Network in Action was actually the last one that I looked at, and it seemed like the best fit. It was the one that spoke to me because I love to connect people, and it's what I do naturally, and it's a feel good for me. So as far as how I learned about it, I was working with a franchise broker who introduced me to the founder, Scott Talley, and the
Okay.
rest is history.
So you were actually in the market for a franchise and you were learning about different franchise models?
I was in the market for franchise is as well as business opportunities.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so this was the one that spoke to me and the one that seemed the best fit for me.
Okay, well, right on. And before all that, what were you doing?
I was in the wireless industry, working on the manufacturer side for uh, phone manufacturers that manufacture digital wireless phones. So I've worked from everything from American companies to Japanese to Chinese.
Okay, right on. Yeah, and I always ask because people come to NIA from various backgrounds. There's no real clear-cut mold exactly, but there definitely is, I guess, qualities that a person might have, and as you'd mentioned earlier, connecting people is something that you do naturally. I think that kind of goes in well with what we're seeking. And so what do you, now that you've had a franchise, it's been over a year, what would you say you enjoy most about it?
The relationships that I build. Um, it's definitely a process, but it's just so interesting having been in another industry. And although a lot of that had to do with relationship building, it's like any other business. You meet somebody, you develop a rapport with them, you ask them the right questions. Sometimes they're a good fit, and other times they're not. But I really like the process and making sure that they are a good fit because it needs to be a two-way. Um,
Of
you know,
course.
for them, a good fit for me. And when you have that synergy, which is what I have in my group, it's just a very, very fulfilling experience.
Excellent. That's good to hear. And so, and you've built this group out.
Uh-huh.
It's 2020, I'm sorry, and COVID-19 is in the midst of yeah, I feel like we are starting to emerge from it. We're in the month of September. I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed there, but the tides are seeming to shift. So given that you have basically, I want to say, spent the majority of your time building your group in this environment, how has your response to all of this been? How was corporate's response? Any thoughts on COVID and network in action?
So pretty much, I want to say like March 15th. It was like the week of the prior week. Um, things were in the news. Nothing was really decisive. You were hearing a lot of things. We were seeing pictures in the news of what was going on in Europe. And I think a lot of us just thought, well, that's there. That's not going to be here.
Yeah,
And then, when New York became the epicenter and it became more of a reality, um, I think we all really had to make some changes in our business. And I hate to use the word pivot because I think no matter what career you're in or what industry or business, that you're always having to make changes. So one thing I will say is that Scott Taylor, the founder of NIA, was just a tremendous leader, very fast forward thinker. And immediately he put together this daily dose where we had every day for at least 30 days, probably more, where we had different guest speakers. And I just really think that that speaks to me, having lived in New York City and being there for 9/11. And you know, there's a lot of energy when something's not, going right. And I think if you channel it into what you can do instead of what you can't. And so I think through the leadership of Scott and then just my own personality, not going down that rabbit hole, and knowing how important it is to not necessarily try to sell somebody a membership, but to just really call them, see how they're doing, how their
Right.
family. I think that those are the things that build the relationship. And it was very, very different because we had our last meeting, I want to say March 8th. And then starting in April, we went to Zoom, which for me, having participated on a lot of Zoom meetings and calls, I had never really hosted one. So there was a real learning curve. And like anything, you just fake it till you make it. And, it all worked out, and we were all, I hate to use the phrase, we were all in it together, but we really were. And
Yeah.
I think the group has really gotten closer because of it. The synergy is amazing. I had my last week, I had my first in-person meeting since March. And, I took a poll and wanted to make sure that everybody would be comfortable meeting. And everybody really, really enjoyed it. We had about 14 people. 6 of them couldn't make it or didn't feel comfortable. And it really, really went well. And everybody was respectful of the social distancing.
Right on.
And we're going to have another one next month. The one thing I did do is I've been on a lot of virtual calls meeting people. I never thought that you could meet so many people virtually. So that
Yeah.
was really a incredible lesson. And one of the ladies that I met at one of the business networking groups that I'm involved with, she was the general manager for a hotel. And I just called her, and we connected, but I never thought that I would necessarily have a meeting at her hotel. But one thing led to another. We talked. She gave me a tour of the hotel, and they had just recently done a renovation. Their occupancy level is 40%. So, one thing led to another, and we wound up having our meeting in their lobby / library / bar, and there was plenty of seating. We
Nice.
could even be around the pool, and they really made a lot of accommodations for us. So I think you just have to think outside the box. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And
There
I
you
think
go.
we're all a lot stronger from this.
Yeah, and I remember in the beginning days when you were kind of acclimating to the Zoom environment, you you called, you asked a lot of questions, and we
A lot of mistakes.
yeah. But what would you say your experience was um, in terms of the training and having the resources here at NIA, so this way to help kind of navigate those things.
Absolutely, positively. As I called you earlier today, you're always make yourself available, and if you can't be available, same thing with Scott, same thing with the rest of the team. Everybody's busy, but you're very, very responsive, and you need that. If because there's a lot of isolation, but
Yeah,
you guys, the tools are there. You just have to reach out and ask the questions and utilize the tools.
right on. All right, well, thank you for that. Thank you for the good feedback. And so we're going to get away from COVID now because it is depressing, and but it's also great to know that you've been able to still grow in this place. And I also did want to touch base or touch on something that you'd mentioned, and that was when it happened, the response isn't get sales, 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 but really was about touching base with people and making sure they were okay. And I'm really glad you did that and really embraced that, because that speaks volumes. I know, we have my wife has her business here, and getting those phone calls, it's not nothing. It's very meaningful, and it leaves a great impression. And so when you're networking and you're building relationships, I got to say that just that genuine outreach, um, without cheapening it, but it really does pay dividends. It's what relationships are about, showing that you care, right? So, all right, but getting away from COVID. All right, so let's lighten it up a bit. Do you have a favorite group activity?
Favorite group activity. We just did one last week, and it really was pretty neat the way that it all went down. I was the timekeeper. I had a bell, and the activity was is that everybody was going to have a one-on-one, and after 5 minutes was up, they'd switch to the next person. Of course,
Okay.
people got kind of carried away talking, and I'm trying to remember. I should remember this. What the question was. It'll come to me. But one of the things that we did do is everybody had to tell like a fun fact about themselves. And all of my members, if I hadn't done business with them, I've known them, for almost a year now. And I thought I knew everything about them. And one of the members shared that he had been, his mother worked at Duke University, and his mother worked there, but he was born in front of 250 medical professionals.
Oh, wow.
That's something like you just never forget. And then the other thing I learned from my marketing social media guy is that he learned how to tell time in the sand at the beach.
Huh.
So it was very, very interesting, and people just really kind of fed off of that, and it was fluid. It was everybody moved around. Everybody seemed to feel comfortable. I handed out masks. We had the hand sanitizer, and everybody wrote their name on their mask.
There you
So
go. That's pretty cool.
it was fun.
Yeah.
I think right now with everything so serious as far as what's going on in the world, that it's just the synergy is really the key thing. And the fact that I get to pick who's in the group
Mm-hmm.
really, really makes a difference. And that's really the biggest takeaway, is that not everybody is going to be a good fit. And sometimes you just have to try it, which leads me to the NIA trial pilot program. And I have to date converted, I think, at least 2, but I'm hoping for an additional 3. And it goes back to just showing value, introducing people, but also being authentic about it. And there have been so many referrals in my group that just through that process, I think the members really see the value, and they're really excited about that.
Right on. Well, there you go. And so I have to let you go now. But before I do, is there any advice that you might have for somebody who is interested in picking up a franchise or starting their own networking group?
Picking up a franchise or what? Now I didn't hear the
Or
last.
starting their own networking group?
Oh, sure. So just don't be afraid. Pick up the phone, talk to people, ask questions. there's a lot of franchisees who have been doing it for a long time, and there's a lot to be learned from them. And then everybody has their own style, and just because somebody does it one way doesn't mean that you can't do it another way. And so I think by asking questions and being present, being involved, engaged, that you can learn a lot in regards to growing a network group. I just think it's the key thing is that the group members, that there has to be synergy there and common respect for one another. And I've been a very diverse group, and I've had a lot of compliments in regards to they're not all professionals. I have a plumber in the group, and a contractor, even though he's a high-end contractor, but they're not necessarily business people that are going to sit behind a desk. And I think it just offers a really nice mix.
Right on, right on. Well, thank you so much, Stacey. It's been wonderful talking to you. And I will see you at the next summit, I think it is, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Danielle. Have a good day.
All right, you too.